So thank you very much for logging on today for the Getting Back to Business webinar. We're here to provide you with some guidance and advice on opening your business, and if you've already opened your business, what you can do to run your business safely throughout COVID-19. Hopefully it's going to provide you with some clarity on the law and to guide you what you need to do to ensure your business is COVID secure. We have a range of business support services on the webinar today, and I'd just like to introduce a few of you. We have Jason from BBFA, which is Better Business for All. We've got Lee Taylor from Trading Standards at Devon County Council. We've got Simon Ruddy from Environmental Health at Exeter City Council. We've got Will Noel from Exeter City Council Marketing and Communications, and Lee Staples from Exeter City Council in Licensing, and myself, Victoria Hatfield, who's the Growth and Commercialisation Manager at Exeter City Council. This webinar has been recorded and the final version is going to be uploaded onto the YouTube account for Trading Standards and Exeter City Council. So if you've missed anything today, then you can view the video on both of those YouTube accounts. If you've got any questions today, if you want to put those into the chat box, whether that be in the public chat or direct to presenters, then please do put questions for your business within the chat. And this is a real good opportunity for you to ask some very specific questions related around your business. So if you've got any concerns or issues, or you need any clarity related around your business, so whether you're a hotel, a B&B, pub, restaurant, retail, or something a little bit differently, then it's your chance to engage with the people on the webinar today. Microphones have been turned off. This is primarily due to the webinar being quite short and being quite quick and punchy, that if you've got any questions you want to raise, best to put them in the chat rather than talking, because the microphones are switched off. So if you want anything raised, please put it in the chat. So I mentioned I'm Victoria Hatfield from Exeter City Council, the Growth and Commercialisation Manager, and I have been looking after city centre recovery for Exeter, and that's focusing around how do we open up our high streets and city centre and some of our neighbourhood shopping areas safely. So how do we implement social distancing measures across those areas? And I mentioned some neighbourhood shopping areas, those being Magdalen Road, Hevertree, Cowick Street, Topsham, and the Quay, which also includes Piazza Terracina. I mentioned the city centre recovery, and that is the area that I focus on as part of the recovery process for Exeter. We do have a number of other recovery areas, one being visitor, economy and culture, health and wellbeing, education, business and economy, and development and construction. And each one of those recovery areas has their own plan, which gets fed up into the Exeter Place Board. And this is a group of individuals and businesses that are Exeter based, and they're chaired, that group, the Exeter Place Board, is chaired by Sir Steve Smith, who is the Vice Chancellor of the University of Exeter, and as well as Kareem Hassan, who's the Chief Executive of Exeter City Council. The citywide recovery plan has been to develop Exeter's recovery as part of COVID-19, and it looks at the short term, medium term and long term. So what do we need to do immediately to get our city and our economy running? This work also feeds into the Devon-wide business recovery plan, which focuses on business, place, people and opportunities. And the same with Exeter, it has a short, medium and long term, with the short term being about restarting the economy. The medium term is regrowing the economy, and the long term is resetting. So it's a very much a what do we need to do now immediately to support businesses and residents throughout this, and then looking at the long term as what's the impacts on the economy, the businesses and our residents, and what do we need to adjust to ensure that we've got a thriving economy going forward. The Devon Recovery Plan also focuses on some of the most hardest hit economies and sectors within Devon, those being tourism and hospitality, agriculture, food and drink, retail and construction. And you can kind of understand why those sectors are the most hardest hit in Devon in terms of the makeup of the county. You know, it's very rural. It's a big tourism destination for those UK and overseas. And those are some of the businesses that have been closed the longest as a result of Covid-19. The plan has been issued for Devon, and you can visit that on the Devon County Council website. It's also been sent up to central government to develop an ask for Devon to get some financial support from central government. And we're just waiting on the results of that ask that's been sent up to them. Just a few more things to mention, which is related around Covid-19. That the Exeter Discretionary Business Grant Round 2 is now live. And this is an application process on the City Council website. And if I could just ask Will to kindly put a link on the chat box. And this is open to all businesses who have not yet received a coronavirus grant to their business. There is some mandatory criteria, and that is you need to be an SME, so you need to employ less than 50 people. We're trading on the 11th of March. Your business is not in administration, and you haven't previously received a grant, a coronavirus grant. So if you meet that criteria, then please visit the link that Will's now put in the chat. And there's a process that you need to apply through that. It's an online application form, and you need to provide some evidence to show your ongoing property costs that you have to run your business. So I would encourage you to apply. It's money there available for businesses to apply for. There's no catches, so please do apply for some grants out there, because we do have money left over from central government, and if we don't distribute this, then the likelihood is we will have to hand it back. There's been some legislation that's been received from central government around having tables and chairs outside on pavements, and we have been reviewing that legislation and updating the policy for Exeter. So if we have any businesses on the webinar today that are unable to do social distancing within their premises in terms of food and drink, then there's going to be a review of the policy for Exeter, and that's going to be launched as soon as that gets passed in law. So we're just waiting to hear back from central government of the process that has gone through the Houses of Parliament and the House of Lords to put that new legislation into law. So as soon as that is in law, we will do some communication through the business newsletter and through the City Council social media. So that's it for me for the time being. I'm now going to hand over to Jason from BBFA, and he's going to go through the toolkit.
Hi, thanks Victoria. Jason Berry here from Better Business for BBFA. Just to give you an insight as to what BBFA is, because you've probably never heard of it before. It's a local partnership between businesses, business support and regulators across Devon and Somerset, as well as Torbay and Plymouth. And it's there really to promote local economic prosperity whilst maintaining public protection. Better Business for aims to improve how regulatory services are delivered in Devon and Somerset, and to show how working with us, local regulators, can save you time and money, improve your competitiveness and help you grow your business. And it's about encouraging more businesses to seek advice from local regulators by highlighting the benefits of regulation to business without fear of enforcement activity. And it's about ensuring that regulatory staff are better understand how businesses operate and the pressures that you face. Essentially what we're trying to do is flip the lid. So instead of potentially slapping penalty notices and fines your way, hopefully coming to you before you get to that stage and writing possibly what could be wrong. And to give you a flavour of the sort of things we look after, environmental health, trading standards, licensing, weights and measures, farming standards and animal welfare, among many, many more. And then particularly in these times of uncertainty, we can hope we can support you to survive. And we've done that with some businesses where they've gone from being perhaps a restaurant to a takeaway. We can help you revive and then of course thrive as we come out of this uncertain times. So this COVID toolkit is a tool that's been put together by all the regulators to try and support your business and help it open up safely in the short and medium term. So if we could please play the video, Will, that'll give you a guide as to how to utilise the COVID
Welcome
toolkit.
to the run-through of the Better Business for All Covid-19 Toolkit, considerations for restarting your business safely. This toolkit contains template documents and checklists to help you complete your Covid-19 risk assessment. Here you can see the template documents available to download, a brief description of what it can be used for, and finally links to further relevant web pages and resources. We start with 5 steps to working safely. This is a summary of things to focus on when carrying out your risk assessment. There is also the COVID secure poster which you can complete once you've carried out your risk assessment. We then have the COVID-19 risk assessment generic version. This is based on the Health and Safety Executive's template risk assessment model. You can use this in addition to the Working Safely During Coronavirus guidance, which is available from government, and also any industry-specific guidance to pick out risk mitigating factors which are relevant to your business. As an alternative, we have also included a couple of risk assessments with controls taken from the Working Safely guidance. The generic risk assessment starts by identifying what the hazards are, who might be harmed and how, what you are doing already, whether you need to do anything else to manage the risk, and whether there are any actions that need to be taken and when these need to be taken by. If needed, we have also included an extra sheet for you to record any of the actions that you've identified. For a basic overview of the controls required to control coronavirus, we would recommend the Health and Safety Executive's Working Safely During the Coronavirus Outbreak short guide, and also Talking with Your Workers About Preventing Coronavirus. For more detailed advice, there is guidance within the Working Safely During Coronavirus COVID guidance, which is published on the gov.uk website. This includes working safely during Covid-19, offices and contact centres, vehicles, shops and branches, other people's homes, in factories, plants and warehouses, restaurants, pubs, bars and takeaway services, and those who work in close contact services such as barbers and hairdressers. There is guidance aimed at operators of heritage attractions that are open to the public, for example castles, historic houses, historic parks, gardens and more, and additional guidance aimed at the visitor economy such as theme parks and the variety of activities and events which take place at hotels, convention and exhibition centres, and conference halls and meeting rooms. There is guidance produced for outdoor cinemas and museums, and in addition to all this government guidance, there are also industry standards which we have put in associated links to as well. We have included checklists to take you through the main steps to open your business and trade safely. These focus on people visiting your site, such as your employees, visitors, customers, and delivery drivers. It will give you some pointers for consulting with your staff about changes to the workplace. There are also some templates for guidance to issue to staff and to visitors before coming back to site, which you can amend with your procedures. There is a section for considerations on bringing your building back into use after being out of action for some time. For example, some checklists on Legionella which you can do on your water systems. There is also a link to the latest guidance on air condition and ventilation supplies to businesses and premises. This section also includes considerations around your site plans and movement around your building. The next section has considerations around enhanced cleaning and personal hygiene. The guidance for specific types of work will give you examples of other types of risk mitigation. The objective is to ensure workers maintain social distancing guidelines of 2 metres at best, or 1 metre with risk mitigation where 2 metres is not viable. Remember, the purpose of the controls you put in place are to keep people out of each other's breathing zones. This can be achieved by using a combination of controls such as distance, reducing the number of contacts someone has and the time spent with them, physical barriers, and reducing face-to-face contact by things like side-to-side working and back-to-back working. For close contact work, such as hairdressers and barbers, there is now guidance regarding wearing visors. We have also included a section on the NHS test and trace system, which local public health and environmental health officers will be part of, and you may be contacted by them. Let's keep our districts open and play your part as an employer. Make your workplaces as safe as possible and encourage workers to self-isolate if requested and then support them when in isolation. Although this may seem disruptive for business, it's less disruptive than an outbreak of Covid-19 in the workplace and far less disruptive than periods in lockdown. Thank you for your time.
Thank you there. Just want to say thank you very much to Jason there for introducing the BBFA toolkit. So thank you very much. It would have been now, I would have introduced Kaz from the Heart of the Southwest Growth Hub, but unfortunately she couldn't make it today. But I just want to talk about the Growth Hub, the Heart of the Southwest Growth Hub, because it's a really important resource that we have available to the business community, in that they can provide free business advice to you. So regardless of whether you're a new business that you're looking to start out, you haven't set up yet, or you're an established business, they're there to help you with anything related around your business plan, in terms of what you need to do around your business plan, a marketing, a new direction for you in terms of how do you keep your existing customers if they're changing as a result of coronavirus. So I would have a look at the Growth Hub. I'm just going to ask Will to put a link in there for the Growth Hub itself. And I would have a look at that because it's a really important resource that we have for the Heart of the Southwest, and that covers both Devon and Somerset, and so obviously Exeter. We've had some questions that we've had at previous webinars that we've had up and running, and I thought one or two of those would be quite handy in terms of businesses have that requirement around risk assessments. But one of the questions that we had is, do I need to produce a risk assessment for my business to open, to open my doors to customers? So I didn't know if one of my colleagues, either Jason or Lee, wanted to answer that question.
Hello. Yeah, sorry, I just had to unmute the mic there. My apologies. Yeah, it's while it is while guidance can be seen as guidance, as in not something that isn't essentially mandatory per se or written down in law, it is the crucial first step in assessing whether your business is what your business is going to do to combat the risk of coronavirus. So we would see it as an essential step. If you don't know what you're dealing with, if you don't know how, or you don't have some sort of plan to tackle this unique situation, then it's going to be difficult, because you're not going to have done the pre-planning. You're not going to have thought out the particular scenarios that can come up just in everyday things that will just jump out at you, and that you won't be prepared for them, even though, with best planning, things still will pop out. So to at least be prepared for what you can control, we see the risk assessment as a crucial part of that, because it helps not just for our benefit or just for the sake of making sure that all the paperwork is done in the right order. It is unique. It is generally helpful, because it helps you prepare for all the eventualities, or as many as you can possibly do, or many you can possibly think of. Anyone else?
Thank you, Lee, for that. Really appreciate it. And there's been some guidance that's been issued from central government this week around wearing face coverings in shops. And there was just that clarity of, is it a shop in terms of a retail shop, or does that cover things like showrooms, like car showrooms? And does it cover pubs and restaurants? So it's probably just a little bit of clarity of what constitutes a shop.
Yeah, I'm not yet seen anything or in relation to what constitutes a shop, specific definitions, but has anybody else seen that? Perhaps my other colleagues, Simon or Lee. Sorry, you caught me up, but I will. But if they can't answer, I will go away and get the answer as soon as I possibly can.
Okay, thank you, Lee. They may put that in the chat, because I know Simon and Lee from Exeter City Council, they were unable to go onto the video, so they may. Oh no, not yet, nothing is yet. So that's from Lee.
Yeah, it is a very good question. Yeah, but unfortunately can't answer it yet.
And just another one related to that, in terms of the guidance being around wearing a face covering in a shop.
Yeah.
And there's this debate about who's monitoring, who's policing that.
Yeah.
Been discussions around fines if you don't wear a face covering in a shop, of just how is that going to be policed and monitored?
Very good question. I mean, of course, we can all, that's Environmental Health, Trade Standards, Police, and all the other enforcement authorities, try our best to get around. But unfortunately, at this moment in time, it's of course, we won't be able to get around everywhere all at once. And what I think, speaking from just my personal opinion, what we don't want to do is make this situation where it's an additional burden for business, as in resources stretched in the enforcement and regulatory sector. So therefore, it means it's lumping this responsibility onto the business. We don't want that to be the case, and well, I wouldn't want it to be the case anyway. And just to really, in terms of, can you refuse, the actual question saying, can you refuse entry to the shopping establishment? It will depend on the specific business themselves. You may be, a bigger premise. You may have multiple employees and may be able to do that sort of step as you go through the door, like you see in the bigger supermarkets, saying, "Hi, how are you?" Or, "Yes, you can come in. Have you got your face mark on?" You can, if that's what you feel is necessary, then that's so. But at the same time, if you're, say, a smaller business, or you haven't got that amount of resource, then I think the important thing to establish is that all enforcement authorities, especially Trade Standards, Environmental Health, are going to be sensible in their approach when they see someone. You've got lots, just from looking at the definitions, you've got lots of specific areas of people that are going to be exempt from wearing masks in a shop. Disabled people, you're looking at hidden disabilities as well, those with mental illnesses and things. Very difficult thing to police if you are a business and you are trying to sort of like, and say, your example, you're a very small business and you're the only person there, you're stuck behind the counter all the time. In that sort of scenario, you're not going to be able to do that. And we're going to take all that into consideration, of course. And it's not that we're coming down round and we're going to be jumping out of the bushes and going, right, that person over there hasn't got one, you're fined. No, we're going to look at the situation sensibly, and we're going to see what the situation is. And if by chance you're unlucky enough to have an inspection, and while people are in the shop without masks on, then we're going to look at that in a very sort of light touch. Why is this the case? There'll probably be a reasonable explanation for it, and if that's the case, we'll go on. We just don't want if the businesses of Exeter are going to show common sense and they're going to try their best to keep this keep this enforced, or keep their standards up, then we're going to do our best to sort of try and keep out of the way and just let them and not interfere too much.
Okay, thank you very much, Lee. Really appreciate that real thorough response. Again, related to tourism, hospitality businesses, that there's requirement of businesses to collect customer contact details. And if someone is tested positive who's visited that business within that last 2-week period, should the business contact the customer direct first rather than going through the channels around Public Health England and NHS? Is it going to be quicker for just the business to contact the rest of their customers direct, or should they just stick with the going through the channels of the NHS test and trace?
Again, to answer that one, the official line is at the present moment to use NHS test and trace. There is, of course, nothing to stop you ringing up the customers yourself, and we've seen that in scenarios. And so if you want to do that as well, then you're more than entitled to. There's nothing to stop you. But the official line is contact NHS test and trace, just because there's going to be, there may be the odd occasion where the amount of customers in and the amount of checking that you're doing and numbers and addresses you're taking is going to be, it may be quicker in some instances, but to just do it yourself. But those instances are probably going to be on the very minimal. And so the official line is always do test and trace, call them up on the hotline, and let them take care of it.
Okay, thank you, Lee. And just one final one is, there's been some confusion within the guidance around social distancing, around the 2 metre and then 1 metre plus mitigation. Do you want to clarify what that difference is in terms of the mitigation to allow it to go down to 1 metre?
From guidance, it's 2 meters unless 1 meter is just completely impractical in the circumstances, and that can be for many reasons, and it is a horses for courses thing. And I think and without wanting to preempt or speak on behalf of the central government, it sort of makes sense that now they're bringing in face coverings for businesses from 24th of July, because it must be as an extra additional in my opinion, it sounds like an additional extra thing they're adding in, because of course it's not going to be practicable for everyone to keep 2 meters apart. And we've seen that in a lot of places, beaches, when the pubs reopen, after certain situations, you're going to have instances where trying to keep people 2 meters apart is going to be incredibly impractical, unless that burden is taken on by the business to physically, restrain or separate people somehow. And it's a burden that most businesses are not going to be able to cope with unless they spend a huge amount on extra bouncers or something like that. And I just don't see that happening personally. So it's where practical. And again, from our point of view as enforcers and regulators, we take that into consideration. And if you make contact with us, or if we see that in effect, and then we just we look at it and as a whole and try and take that into consideration. And if it, like I said in the last question, if the businesses are doing their best, then that's all we can ask of them, really.
Okay, thank you, Lee. Really appreciate that. We've had some discussions with businesses, which I thought would be handy to highlight. As a result of these particular businesses being closed, that they didn't want to lose their customer base while they were closed and while they were shut up shop. So a few businesses that we found about in Exeter have adjusted their business model, and that's making sure that they continue to trade and survive throughout all of this. And we have a local brewery in Exeter that pubs, clubs, restaurants, they've closed, and they've been closed for a considerable amount of time. So one of their main customers, obviously they just weren't buying their products anymore. So they started bottling beer and delivering that direct to customers, to individuals, to residents. And that was not just across Devon, but that was across the whole of the South Coast. So from Cornwall, Devon, Dorset, all the way through to London. And whilst they were delivering their bottles of beer, they were also delivering PPE to health centres and doctor surgeries in Devon. So they've actually, they've got spare room in their van when they're delivering, and so as part of that, they've been delivering PPE to really far out reaches within Devon. So they've been working really hard on that over the last couple of months. And a local fruit and veg shop in the city has also been delivering locally. Again, they closed their shop as part of that, and to help him serve his customers, he's got a real loyal customer base within Exeter, is that he turned all of his deliveries onto his mobile phone. So having a really important piece of equipment, your phone, that he publicised his number on Facebook, on his website, on his door, that if people still want to buy fruit and vegetables, just to give him a call and he will deliver that direct to them. So it'll be interesting to see if that continues, part of this, when he opens up his shop and people start to visit him again. So that was a really interesting one. And the final one is a local sustainable clothes shop in Exeter. Again, they closed down as part of the lockdown and restrictions, but she set up an online shop that anybody can buy worldwide. But if you bought a piece of clothing item and you lived in Exeter, then your purchase would be delivered by bike. And so again, she's used part of her family to look at what changes she can make in her business, to look at those aspirations around net zero and carbon neutrality and take part in that. So that was a really interesting one that she has taken on. And it's my understanding that that model that she's looking to develop is she's not going to go back to the old traditional shop of just that's where you go and buy your dress and try your dress in. It's what can she do online and support her customers that live in Exeter. So I think that's probably one of the things to kind of highlight is think about the opportunities around this, and to keep your customer base going forward, what can you do differently to ensure that you still have that customer base once you open your business and your customers can now start to visit you and use you, of what can you do differently to ensure you've still got a really valuable customer base going forward. We're coming to the end. We've probably got 1 minute left, so we're kind of just on time. But I just want to say thank you very much to Jason, to Lee for being on camera and contributing to today, and to the rest of the team on the chat, from Lee, Simon and Will. And just want to say thank you very much for coming on today, and just to take care and stay safe, and thank you very much.